While our sauce is reducing, now we're going to start prepping some new items. And now we're going to move on to our slaw. So, to break down your head of green cabbage, we're just going to cut it in quarters. Come right down the center here. Ba-bam. Anything that falls off, now is your preference. I mean, when cooking in a restaurant, yeah, of course, we wouldn't waste this, but, I mean, at home, you don't care about the extra leaf of cabbage. I don't care about the extra leaf of cabbage. Cut this into quarters. We've already cut it in half. Now we're going to line up, go right down the center of your root there. We've broken it down now. Other half over here, right down the center. Pajam. Now what we want to do is take out the root, the stem right here, your center, and we're just going to come in at a little bit of an angle to try and remove all of that. Now it comes off in a nice wedge. Now certainly there are ways that you can use the extra bits of this. I actually love to chop it up and use it for some of the food that I might be sauteing up if I want to give it to my dog. You could use this for a stuffing. You can use it, we could throw it into our corn puree, anything that you might like. Today, it's not really worth me saving it. Again, just taking off the simple root stem here that connects all of it together. And now what we're going to do is we're going to stack these up. There's two different ways. Doesn't matter the angle you take, you're left-handed or right-handed. And all we want to do is we're going to put our fingers on the top. We're going to curl them down. We're going to use our knuckles as a nice runner. And now personally, I like to go as thin as possible. I like to do as much as I can with my hands. Also, practice makes perfect. The more that you practice this at home, the more you're going to be able to show off when it comes time to being able to do so. So again, we're going to run our knife right along the knuckle, and I'm just going to come straight down, almost as paper thin. Now what I'm doing is you see almost like a sawing motion, and that's just so that I can feel the grip and of my blade catching each little strand of cabbage, and then I know if I need to come in or come out a little bit more. But doing it with this technique, we get nice, thin, little braids, shreds of cabbage here. The thinner we can get, the faster it's going to marinate, and therefore the faster our slaw is going to be ready. Now as we get maybe about halfway to 3/4 of the way through our cabbage, what you might want to do, just to make it a little bit easier on yourself, is then flip it back down onto the other side. Now it's a shorter piece for you to work with, a little bit more stable with a knife in your hand. And again, we're just coming down. Now I can just go with the flow, the rock of my knife. I don't need to do the sawing maneuver to feel every little grab. And again, this is just a nice, easy way. Once you get down now to your smaller bit, you can just use the heel of your knife, just get that nice rocking motion in there, and you're gonna get a nice, fine, thin shred on your cabbage. Again, this is for you to practice at home. Take your time till you get comfortable with your knives, okay? All right, so now that we've broken down our cabbage, just for demonstration purposes, I just put the 1/4 of the head of cabbage in here right now, just so it makes it easier for me to be able to demonstrate it to you. Obviously though, we're gonna cut down that whole head of cabbage to make our recipe. That way you have a little bit of extra slaw to hold on. Now this is a very simple, very quick, easy slaw recipe. It's gonna work great for a topper on the pork that we're doing today. You can throw it on tacos. You could throw it into some Hawaiian buns with a nice little burger, whatever you want. This is very, very versatile, and that's what we're all about in this channel. Showing you simple, easy recipes that you can use time and time again that are just gonna taste great and that people aren't gonna know, oh, you only use 4 ingredients to make this? Boom, mind blown. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna julienne a little bit of red onion in here. Now, 1 whole red onion to a whole head of cabbage, probably a pretty good ratio. I'm just gonna show you how to julienne half of it just for demonstration purposes, and we're gonna mix it in. What you always wanna do is we're gonna top and bottom our red onion here. So I'm gonna take the top off first. And now this gives you the easiest way, as we like to say, to peel, because we're always going to sacrifice our outer layer to the onion gods, okay? And the easiest way to do that is just to come on down, right down the center here. Just going to cut off that first outer layer. Now this gives me something to work with, and I can peel this off. The outer layer, as most of you know, you've ever worked with onions, can always be your softer one. You know, if your onion starts to go bad, starts to maybe rot a little bit or get soft, you peel off that outer layer, everything in the center is going to be much more fresh, more crisp, easier to work with as well. So we're just peeling off this outer layer, and now you can take the outer layer of the onion and the skin off all in one, because that skin can be fickle. It can stick to the onion, make it not so easy to work with. Demonstration purposes again, this is not always the way that I cut my onions, but what we're going to do is we're going to leave that root end on, and I'm going to cut right down the middle. And what that root end now is going to do is going to hold my onion together essentially for me. Now, one thing great about the onion that most people don't pay attention to is it is naturally ribbed. So it is already divided into layers, and then everybody knows we got those little ribs running down here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to follow the natural part of the onion, and we're going to use these ribs as a guideline. If I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not the biggest fan of raw red onion. So the thinner it is, the less oniony bite that you get out of it, and then you don't have such strong onion breath, you know what I'm saying? So what we're going to do is we're going to follow the natural ribs on our onion here. I'm going to start at an angle on my onion, and I'm going to work my way up, almost like a half moon, and the way that the onion goes naturally. So we're going to come in again, using our knuckles on our knife, and as small, thin slices as you can possibly get. Again, this is my preference. There is no wrong way to cook. You can always do it however you like. But the smaller the thinner, I think it makes it just a little bit nicer. You don't get, again, as much of an oniony bite. And then look at these. Nice, paper thin. And they're going to marinate up so well, and they're going to pull in a lot of that flavor coming in from our very, very simple marinade that we're going to show you. So we've gone about a quarter way through the onion. As you saw, started on the angle. We're moving our way up. Now we're going to come straight down on top of the onion. Now this is when you want to pay attention a little bit more. Now you could kind of just use the tip of your onion, or the tip of your knife through the onion and come on back. That way you're not cutting into the root end. Or it's a good point to take your root end off if you have good control. And then straight down the middle on our last cut. Again, this gives us nice, very nice, thin layers of onion. And as I said, the onion is already naturally separated, so we only have to make those one cut to get this really nice, paper-thin julienne. So now that we've sliced our onion, we're going to go ahead and throw that right into our cabbage mixture. Again, you don't have to use all of it, only however much you want. But why waste what we got? We're going to throw all of our little red onion in here. That's half a red onion to about a quarter of the cabbage just for this demonstration purposes. And then we're going to give it a nice little pre-toss just to get it already mixed together. And then we can see the ratio of onion to cabbage that we have. Nice and even, very well balanced there. Give my knife a little wipe, and now with the water that I had on my knife, we're just going to give our board a little bit of wipe off anyway. The cleaner you work, the less cleaning you have to do at the end of the cooking, you know. Okay, so, I mean, you could use this. This is a perfect, easy start to a very, very simple slaw. It's going to add freshness, crunch, whatever you want to your dishes. But since this is barbecue, since we are in Orchard County, or Orchard Country out here in Palisade, Western Slope, Grand Valley, Colorado, and since apple pairs excellently with pork, I'm going to throw a little bit of fresh Granny Smith apple in there as well. What we're going to do is we're going to essentially assume where the center of our apple is, or where the core might be. We're going to come in maybe about a quarter inch, half an inch off that, and I'm just going to come right down the center. Bam. Perfect. We just want to see a little bit of break where the seed might be. You don't want to go in there too far. We're going to come all the way around the apple. If you have an apple corer, one of those fancy machines at home, please feel free to use it, but it's easy enough just to square off your apple like this. Great snack while you're cooking. We save that. You can use the apple cores. Great base for a sauce if you're going to make barbecue sauce or anything like that. Right now, we're just using this for demonstration purposes on our slaw. Now what you want to do is take all of your apple and lay it flat. Easier to work with. And again, we're gonna come straight down, use the base of our knuckles, as thin as we can get it. Can save the end, keep going down, or snack again. All right, so now that we have our apples sliced, what we're gonna do is we're gonna stack those up a little bit just to keep it all even for us. Line all these up, that way we can get a nice even julienne cut to match the thinness that we already have on our cabbage and that we already have on our onion. Now it's stacked up, we're just gonna go opposite direction, come on straight down. It's going to give us nice little apple sticks here, which is going to match the size and the texture of the rest of all of our ingredients in that slaw. Look at those little matchstick size, perfect, easily biteable. Come on right down, right through the center on our last. As you saw, it fell over because these are already thin enough. We're cooking at home. They don't need to be perfect. Let's go ahead. We're going to throw these on in here as well. Now that's about half an apple to a quarter of a head of cabbage and a half of red onion right now. Again, we would not waste, so in truth we would be using a whole apple to a whole head of cabbage, half an onion, whole onion, if you want to add a little bit more, your own preference. Okay, so again, we're just going to go in with our hands here. Going to give it a nice little toss. That way, it's already pre-mixed. That way we can see the ratio that we have going on. So we have our onion, we have our cabbage, and our apple and our slaw right now. Just for fun today, I happened to pick up a dragon fruit. They had a crap ton of dragon fruit at my local market. It's certainly in season right now. Some of you maybe have never worked with a dragon fruit before. This is not typical. As I said, the slaw that you have right now is an easy way to start. We're going to throw some dragon fruit in just for fun. I happen to love it. And if you've never worked with dragon fruit before, I'm going to show you how easy it is. We're just going to take the top off. We're going to take the bottom off. Another benefit to the dragon fruit too is that gorgeous color that it provides us with. Again, if you're trying to do something like a dinner party at home where you want to show off a little bit, so using something that might be out of the box but provides great color contrast, it's an easy way that we cheat as chefs, just to make things pop a little bit more on the plate and look a little bit nicer. So just as you would a pineapple or so, we're going to set this flat and we're just going to peel off around the outside, just taking off this outer layer where the skin is. Now you can leave some of that pink on. You can go all the way down to the center if you will, if you want. But I like some of that pink, and one of the reasons again that we're using this is because of that nice bright pink color contrast. Like I said, same way that you might peel a pineapple, take off the skin of a cantaloupe. It is as easy as that. And you don't have to use dragon fruit. This was just something fun that I decided to do because this is reckless chefing. And now for our slaw, what we're going to do is I'm going to take this in half and cut some nice half moons out of this if you would. Again, very nice thin slices. So we got these nice thin slices now, and they're going to work great. You could throw them into your slaw whole if you wanted to do it like this for a little bit of extra plate presentation, or we can take them just like we took our apple, do some sticks out of them. Got these nice sticks going on here. Throw it on into our bowl. Boom. Just for a little flavor, color contrast again. It's going to add a little bit of natural sweetness to this dish as well. This is only going to be in season for so long. Love it. Love it. Okay, so again, we're just going to toss this on up. All right, so now we're going to dress our slaw, a little marinade if you would, and then we're going to let it sit in the fridge while we prepare everything else. Now, as I said, this is very, very simple, something you can take with you, use for any kind of slaw, salad dressing, anything have you. We're going to use some lime juice. trick to pre-juicing your limes. If you don't know, and we're going to use these by hand. Obviously, you can get a little hand press. If you have a juicer at home, I recommend using those. But for those of you who might not have some of that equipment, what we're going to do is we're going to pre-roll our lime here, and we're going to push down on it pretty hard. And the point of this is it is essentially juicing the lime within its own skin. It makes it softer, makes it easier to work with. It's going to be easier to cut through, and then when you go to hand juice it, all that juicing is almost done ahead of time for you. So we'll juice a couple limes fresh into here. Doesn't matter if you cut top to bottom. This one we did cut top to bottom. Oh yeah, look how easy that juice comes out now. And what I like to do is the little roll technique. I start with my thumb and my finger pinching from the top and then roll it down into my palm. So these limes were pretty juicy, so I'm only going to go with 3 instead of the 4 to the 5. I see a nice big or good coating getting onto our cabbage and onto our slaw here. Throughout every stage, we're going to give that a little toss. That way you can see if you think you might need to add extra. Nice sheen on all of the vegetable now. I can see that it has coated nicely. We're going to move on. I mean, it's just typical for a slaw. We're going to hit just a splash of apple cider vinegar. I always prefer apple cider vinegar when doing barbecue, especially. Again, just a little bit of extra sweetness, a little bit of hint of apple to it. All right, so again, we already have a lot of acidity from the lime juice. Bloop, bloop. Just a splash of the apple cider vinegar in there. And that's just going to help marinate it. The acidity helps break down some of the structures in our vegetables that we have going on. Now, as I mentioned, naturally, us as humans, we love our sugar. We love our sweetness. You could just add a little bit of granulated sugar to this, but we're going to use a little bit of honey today. Agave works well, or great as well. This is True Bee honey, comes fresh from Tennessee actually, another company that I love to use. We're also going to feature another local honey company here from the Grand Valley, Colorado as well. So probably just as much as of the apple cider vinegar you put in, we're going to put in a little bit of that honey. Boom. Nice little drizzle going on there. Again, give it a toss. Now, since it's a little sticky, if you wanted to, it's a good time to switch over to a utensil, maybe a wooden spoon or tongs if you want. Makes it a little easier. And I don't mind getting in there with my hands, but since I know I'm going to go grab some salt and pepper, I want my hands to be dry and not sticky with the honey. That way I can save myself while washing my hands again before the next step. We're just going to give this a nice little toss. See that everything is fully coated. Oh yeah, got a nice sheen on there. So now that we've coated it with our lime juice, a little bit of apple cider vinegar, a little bit of honey, we're going to hit it with a little bit of salt. Just over a pinch or so. You can always taste as you go. And then we got our little bit of fresh ground black pepper in here as well. And as I mentioned, I love cilantro. Some of you may not, that's okay. You don't have to add any herb to it at this point. I think it just gives that a little bit of extra. And cilantro is one of those herbs that you can actually keep the stem on. Use the stem, and it's got great flavor to it. When it comes to me and I grab a whole bunch of cilantro, I'm literally going to grab the whole bunch of cilantro. Now we're going to cut from the top down because I want to use the stems for a stage that's coming up later. So kind of pinch it all together as tight as you can get it, and then that's just going to provide you a little bit more even cuts, okay? So again, we're just going to come down using the natural rock of my knife, back to forward, boom. Again, I like cilantro, so I'm going to add a hefty bit of that into our slaw here. Now we're going to fold that in. Now that we're on the end stages of the slaw, I'm going to use my hands again just to make sure that everything feels properly coated. Yeah, and then look at that color dynamic. We have 3 different shades of green in there, 2 different shades of pink. I can smell the freshness coming off of this slaw right now, and I know it's going to work just great with the pork and the sauce that we're already making. Since we're cooking at home, why not give it a little sample? Oh yeah, light, fresh, crisp, slight sweetness from that honey, get a nice pop from the cilantro, and we're going to let that sit in the fridge while our pork is finishing up. So the longer that marinades, the more flavor we're going to get out of it. Another cheat for you here. is if you take your plastic wrap, put it over the top of the bowl, and then give a nice little press. It's almost like same technique as if you were sealing something you're pickling into a jar. Just putting the press on top of here and getting a full seal on the top. Now what this is going to do is going to cling the juices on the top of your vegetables and on the top of your slaw. It's going to cling to the top of that wrap, and then that way we get a little bit better of a marinade going on there. Ba-cham! Into the fridge, and then we top with the fresh, light, beautiful slaw that we made that was marinating in our refrigerator for the last hour or so. And we want to do that right on top of here. And now this is breaking up color, it is breaking up texture, it is breaking up our freshness, and it creates just that little bit of extra element. And now